Some people throw dirt on your name because they're afraid of the garden you're growing. They thought they buried you, but they didn't realize you were a seed, and now, with every lie they spread, every rumor they whispered behind your back, they watered your rise. They were fighting the wrong battle. They weren't just coming after you, they were going up against the universe itself, and no one wins that fight. To those who attacked you, thinking you were easy prey, understand this. You didn't touch a victim. You touched a force. You poked the calm silence of someone chosen by the universe, and now the storm is coming. You see, when the universe selects its own, it doesn't pick the loudest, the strongest, or the flashiest. It picks the one who can carry the light through the darkest places. That light, it haunts your enemies. It burns through their lies and leaves their illusions in ashes. Before we go deeper, like and subscribe to help spread this message to more chosen ones. When you engage, you help this truth reach those who need it. You tell YouTube that this isn't just noise. This is a signal, a pulse from the universe. Let's help more of the chosen hear the call. You're not crazy, you're not alone, and you're definitely not weak. The betrayal, the smearing, the quiet exile, they planned it like a game of chess. But what they didn't see was that the board belonged to the universe, and you were never a pawn. You were the whole damn strategy. They say the most dangerous thing in the world is a person who still stands after everything meant to break them. That's you. The text messages, lies, the screenshots, fabricated, the rumors, rehearsed poison passed around by people who could never stand in your light, so they tried to dim it. Remember how they looked you in the eye, ate your food, laughed with you, only to twist the knife the second you turned your back. That wasn't friendship. That was fear dressed as loyalty. You were glowing too loud. You reminded them of everything they weren't brave enough to become. But the thing about truth is, it echoes, and now it's getting louder. Phone records don't lie. Timestamps don't lie. Witnesses are stepping out from the shadows because they can't keep watching the chosen ones be crucified for other people's guilt. The universe is shifting. Justice might move slowly, but it always knows who to knock on. And you doubted yourself for a second. You questioned your light because it felt like the whole world turned its back. But that's what happens when stars begin to shine too brightly. Clouds show up to try and block the view. Don't ever forget this. They weren't scared of you. They were scared of the power that moves through you. And that power, it's older than hate, stronger than lies, and louder than gossip. You weren't attacked because you were wrong. You were attacked because you were real, and nothing threatens fake people more than someone who refuses to pretend. So to the chosen ones watching this right now, stop asking why they did it. Start remembering who you are. When you were born with light, darkness always tries to claim you, but it never wins, never. You're not just surviving, you're glowing, and every lie they told is fuel for your fire. Let them talk, let them gather, let them twist your name, because the universe is listening and it's keeping score. And when it answers, it doesn't whisper, it roars. So, if you've ever felt that sting, the betrayal, the lies, the way they turned on you like you were the villain in their story, this message is for you. This isn't just another video. It's a mirror, a fire, a wake-up call. If you're truly one of the chosen, you won't just watch. You'll feel this in your bones. Drop the number 77 in the comments if you've ever been attacked for simply being real. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear will remind you of your power and expose what they really fear. Now, let's break this down step by step. Number 1. They threw dirt and forgot you were soil. The wolves always smile before they bite, but the chosen grow fangs in silence. They saw your light before you ever did, watched you quietly, studied you like a threat. You didn't even know they were circling until the attack started coming from behind smiles, compliments, and fake concern. They clocked your strength not by what you said, but by what you endured. The moment your integrity shook their illusions, you became a danger. You didn't ask for power, but the universe placed it in your hands, and that alone, just existing in your truth, was enough to make them feel like they were drowning. You didn't break their system. Your very presence exposed how broken it already was. They didn't just turn against you, they orchestrated your downfall. Carefully, strategically, no open war, just silence, confusion, and subtle sabotage. No direct strikes, just whispers, looks, and slowly stolen opportunities. That's how they do it when they're too weak to fight you face to face. Cowards wear masks of concern. Snakes speak in soft tones. They smiled while dragging your name through the dirt, forgetting that you are the dirt. You're the seed that gets buried and still chooses to bloom. They tried to cancel you with gossip, but the universe already approved you with purpose. So now they sit confused because you didn't crumble, you didn't fall apart, you stayed quiet, and they mistook your stillness for defeat. But you were just aligning. You were sinking with a greater force. What they didn't realize is that when the universe chooses someone, it moves for them. It shifts, bends, breaks patterns, clears paths, not loudly, but with precision. And when people fight the chosen, they're not just fighting a person. They're fighting alignment itself. They are picking a battle with the unseen laws of balance, and that always ends badly. Let them laugh. Let them pretend they won, because what's coming isn't a clapback. It's a collapse. The system they built on lies is rotting, slowly, quietly, universally. You don't need to swing back. Their own hands are poisoned from touching what they were never meant to handle. You just keep rising. You keep showing up. That's enough. That kills them more than anything you could ever say. Some of you watching this are still questioning yourselves, still asking, why me? Why did they come for me? Why did everyone turn when all I did was tell the truth? Here's the truth. You're not being punished. You're being purified. The betrayal didn't break you. It revealed you. They attacked your name because your presence said everything you didn't need to say. They tried to isolate you so you'd forget who you are. But let me remind you, you're a system breaker, a frequency disruptor, a mirror that shows people the parts of themselves they're trying to hide. And if you're doubting yourself right now, if you've started to believe the lies they told about you, wake up, shake it off, stop playing small just because their minds are too limited to understand your magnitude. You're not here to be liked. You're here to be aligned. And when the universe aligns with you, even time will wait, doors will open, and truth will expose itself with or without your permission. You think they hurt you, but what they really did was reveal their fear. You think you lost people, but you actually dodged bullets. The same ones who betrayed you were never built to stand beside someone chosen. The universe simply moved them out of the way before your rise made them implode. So don't cry over people who turned when the fire got close. They weren't meant to stand in the heat. They were meant to burn in the light they couldn't create. And for those still trying to fight back against the smear, the gossip, the fake narratives, stop. The truth is not yours to prove. It is theirs to choke on. You were born to shift the room just by existing. You were chosen to make liars stutter, to make shadows retreat. The betrayal you faced wasn't personal, it was predictable. Because when light walks into a dark system, the system always panics. So stop asking if you were wrong. You weren't. Stop apologizing for being hard to digest. You were never meant to be palatable to people living off delusion. You were meant to disrupt, to expose, and to rebuild. They tried to play chess with the universe, but what they didn't know was, you are the board, and now the universe is making its next move. Number 2, they dangled chains and called it peace. They will call you rebellious for doing what they never had the courage to imagine. They spoke to you in riddles soaked in fear. They cloaked weakness in the language of wisdom, submission, and balance, telling you to bow, not because it served your growth, but because your rise threatened the very illusion they built their identities on. They told you that surrender was noble, that silence was peace, that playing small was humble. And one by one, they watched people like you fold, fade, disappear into lives that never belonged to them. Buried, not in dirt, but in doubt. Chosen ones who forgot who they were, suffocated in shallow graves, dug by guilt and shame. But you didn't step in. You saw the trap for what it was, a cage disguised as comfort, a leash made of praise, a slow death masked as spiritual maturity. They tried to seduce you with words that had no roots. Be still, they said. Stay calm, they said. Don't fight, they said. But what they really meant was, don't wake up. Because your awakening is their unraveling. Your awareness is a threat to every structure built on blind obedience. You weren't born to be manageable. You were born to move mountains, to tear down what no longer serves, and to rebuild with fire in your hands and truth in your breath. They weren't scared of you because you were loud. They were scared because you were clear. You had eyes that saw through their masks, ears that could hear the lies between their carefully chosen words. You weren't hypnotized by the system. You remembered too much. You didn't need permission to walk away. You knew that staying would cost you everything real inside you. You refused to trade your power for their approval. That was your crime. That was your threat. And that's when they panicked. They couldn't control you, so they tried to confuse you. They whispered poison into your mind, made you question your motives, your memories, even your sanity. They spun the narrative. You've changed. You're aggressive. You're overreacting. But it wasn't overreaction. It was clarity. You saw them for what they were, gatekeepers of a broken system, desperately holding the door shut while pretending to protect you from what's outside. But here's what terrifies them most. You weren't just waking up for yourself, you were waking up others too. Your voice started shifting frequencies, your silence grew teeth, your absence spoke louder than your presence ever did. And that ripple effect? That was never part of their plan. You weren't just refusing the trap, you were burning it down. And yet some of you, the chosen ones, still find yourselves questioning. You wonder, was I wrong for walking away? Did I really see what I think I saw? That's not your doubt talking, that's their programming, still echoing in your bones. Let me break it for you. No, you weren't wrong. No, you're not crazy. You're just awake in a room full of people pretending to be asleep. They hate that you left their circle because you were never supposed to escape. You were supposed to submit, to shrink, to fold into something easier to digest. But you said no. You didn't kneel, and that no echoed into every corner of their false kingdom. That no tore the mask off their authority. You didn't break the system, they broke themselves trying to hold you hostage. Because once someone sees the truth, they become dangerous. And once you refused the trap, you became a mirror. And no one likes what they see when you're holding the reflection up too close. They don't fear your anger, they fear your alignment, because when you're aligned, you're unshakable. You don't beg, you don't chase, you don't need the stage. They need your silence not to expose them. The chosen ones don't walk into rooms needing validation. They are the frequency. They shift the room. That's why they built the trap in the first place, not to imprison your body, but to mute your soul. Too late. Because now you know what you are. You know what they tried to tame. You know that your clarity makes liars sweat. Your presence bends agendas. Your spirit threatens systems. They wanted to break you before you could understand what you were holding. That power, that presence, that unshakable truth that lives in your gut. That is not human-made. That is cosmic. That is universal intelligence choosing you to deliver disruption wrapped in skin. And here's what they can't process. You're not fighting alone. The universe aligns behind the chosen. The wind bends, the ground shifts, the chaos rearranges itself, not because you scream, but because you exist. When you walk in alignment, everything that is false starts to crumble without you even touching it. That's the kind of power they fear, the kind that can't be bought, silenced, or owned. So they turned to desperation. They tried exile, slander, character assassination. They twisted your name until it barely resembled the truth. They rewrote your story while you were still living it. Why? Because they couldn't write their own. Your existence revealed their lack of depth, their fear, their fraudulence. You were the light that made their shadows obvious. You didn't ask for that role, but the universe gave it to you anyway. And once the universe chooses, there's no negotiation. And yet, even after all this, you still doubt yourself, still wondering if you're too much. Let me say this as clearly as I can. You are not too much. They are too little. Too little to understand your mission. Too little to hold your honesty. Too little to stand in the fire and not melt. You don't need to shrink to fit into rooms the universe never built for you. You are not here to play along. You're here to stand out. They say balance, but they mean obedience. They say peace, but they mean silence. They say surrender, but they mean give up who you are so they can stay comfortable. No, enough. This world doesn't need more silence. It needs more disruption from souls who remember why they were sent here. And you, yes, you are one of them. That's why they tried to trap you. Because your refusal doesn't just set you free, it calls others to do the same. That's the real danger you pose. That's the real revolution. You were never meant to kneel. You were meant to unlearn, to unplug, and to unleash. You were born to destroy the illusion, not decorate it. And now they know. Number 3, you were the earthquake. They tried to pretend was just a breeze. They thought you were a problem to solve until they realized you were a reckoning to survive. Now they stumble, tripping over their own narratives. Every word they once wielded like a weapon now cuts their own tongue. They whisper your name in corners, not out of curiosity, but out of fear. The same ones who scoffed at you, who stood tall while throwing dirt at your back, now find themselves shaking in your shadow. Not because you fought back with fury, but because you never broke, because you stood still while the entire system tried to move you. And in that stillness, you became immovable. They used to think they had the power. They used to think their silence could erase you, that their gossip could reduce you. They were so sure your story would end with exile. But here's the truth they never saw coming. You are not a sentence they get to finish. You are the author, the ink, and the storm that broke the pen they tried to write you out with. They spoke of endings as if they were gods of your destiny, as if your fate was hanging on their approval. But their trembling hands have no grip on your thread anymore. That rope they once tied around your name is unraveling fast, and now they're trying to rewind a story the universe already rewrote without their consent. And you didn't just survive, you redefined the entire plot. They wanted you quiet, they wanted you still, but the chosen don't kneel for cowards who lead with lies. The chosen don't seek revenge, they become revelation. You didn't rise from luck, you rose because you were called, and the calling was louder than the destruction they planned for you. You rose without needing to scream, and that's why they're terrified. They thought power meant domination, but real power walks in and doesn't need to prove anything. Real power is silent when the fake trembles. Let's talk about that silence, that refusal to explain yourself to the ones who threw stones and called it teaching. That ability to look at the chaos they built and say, "I'm not part of your stage play anymore." That's your force. That's your shield. They couldn't predict your moves because they never understood you weren't playing their game. You were playing by laws written in fire and bone, by the universe itself. And they were never invited to that table. Now, they curse your name, but not because you failed them. No, they curse you because you freed yourself, because every step you took away from them revealed the chains they never knew they were wearing. You made escape look easy. You made self-trust look holy. You made refusal look like revolution. And in doing so, you exposed the truth. They never had power over you. Not really. They only had access. And you revoked it. You were never their lesson, never their pet project, never their puppet. You were the force they said didn't exist. The one who walks away and still wins. The one who says no and means it. You are living proof that you don't need to destroy your enemies to beat them. You just need to outgrow them. And that's the part they can't stomach, because you didn't just walk away. You rose without their validation. You bloomed in the very soil they pissed on. You found wings in the same wind they thought would break you. You became a fireproof truth they can't outrun. A living reminder that control is an illusion, and those who try to play God always end up praying for mercy when the storm answers back. Chosen ones, understand this. Your victory was never dependent on their surrender. It was inevitable. It was coded into your very breath. Your resilience isn't accidental. It's ancestral. It's cosmic. It's universal alignment cracking the shell of systems built on suppression. And every time they tried to shrink you, they stretched your reach. Every time they tried to erase you, they deepened your imprint. Now they recoil at your name, not because it hurts them, but because it reflects who they're not. You shine like a wound to those who refuse to heal. You walk like a threat to those who only ever crawled. You exist like proof that the impossible is possible, and that truth alone rewrites futures. So don't you dare play small now. Don't you dare hold your power like it's optional. You didn't survive all that betrayal, all that exile, all that shadow work just to return as a quieter version of yourself. You came back as the storm, as the earthquake, as the flood they thought would never come. And now they're standing in the ruins of their own control, looking for someone to blame. Let them. Let them spin, let them rage, let them retreat into their shrinking comfort zones. You don't owe them understanding. You don't owe them softness. You owe yourself every ounce of the freedom you fought for. Because you, chosen one, you are the force that shakes foundations. You are the echo they can't silence. You are the truth that burns through their narratives like fire through dead wood. And you're just getting started. Number 4, you were the thunder they heard long before you spoke. When your truth walks into the room, lies hold their breath. They don't fear what they understand. They fear what they can't predict, what they can't mold, what refuses to bow. And that's you. You don't fit their boxes, their systems, or their hierarchy. You walk like a question they can't answer. You speak like a storm they can't forecast. You move through their illusions like a blade through silk, clean, sharp, and unstoppable. And no matter how hard they try to label you, reckless, too much, unstable, they can't make you small enough to manage. They've always known what you are, even before you did. You entered their world, and it trembled, not because you shouted, not because you fought, but because you existed in truth, unbent, unapologetic, whole. And that is what they were never built to handle. They constructed towers of lies, illusions polished like marble, masks so beautiful even they started to believe in them. And then you came in and shattered it all with presence alone. No hammer, no rage, just clarity, just authenticity. That's what made you dangerous. That's what makes you unforgettable. Do not mistake their fear for hate. This isn't about hate. This is about survival, theirs. Because every time you breathe in truth, their carefully built world of false power starts to collapse. Your voice makes their silence obvious. Your strength makes their manipulation pathetic. Your vision makes their control systems look like cages built from paper. And now they panic. They whisper warnings about you. They gather in quiet circles and dissect your name. They scramble to discredit you, not because you've lied, but because you've refused to be lied to. That's the real threat. That's what shakes them. Not your attitude, not your resistance, but your clarity. Your ability to see straight through performance, straight through politics, straight through polite betrayal. The fear you inspire isn't surface level, it's cellular. It lives in their bones, in their shadows. You remind them of everything they tried to forget, that power doesn't come from control, that truth doesn't require permission, that no matter how many illusions they build, one person standing in full truth can knock it all down without touching a thing. You're not just feared, you're watched. Not because they're interested in your path, but because they're trying to stop the wildfire before it spreads. You are one spark away from igniting a mass awakening, and they know it. That's why they keep trying to put you out with ridicule, isolation, distortion. But fire doesn't die in silence, it grows. And yours? It's ancestral, it's universal, it's divine intelligence wrapped in human skin. And it will not be silenced by cowards in suits or smiles. So when they call you too intense, too radical, too much, know that what they're really saying is, we couldn't tame you. Take that as confirmation. You were never born to blend in. You weren't sent here to follow. You're not a footnote in their script. You're the red pen crossing out every false line in the story. Some of you are still doubting this, still wondering, if I was chosen, why do I feel so alone? Why do they keep targeting me? Here's the truth. They don't throw stones at silent statues. They don't attack the powerless. They don't gather to scheme against the irrelevant. They move against you because they feel your magnitude, even when you're unsure of it. They feel your rise in their sleep. They feel your resistance in their chest. You are a mirror, and mirrors don't lie. They only reflect. You've walked into spaces where you said nothing and still made people uncomfortable. That wasn't in your head. That was alignment crashing into illusion. That was your truth pressing against their facades. Your very being is confrontational to everything false. You don't even have to try, and that's exactly why they try so hard to stop you. You are the reason systems tremble. You are the sound of the old world breaking. You are the sigh of the universe reclaiming its chosen. And don't you dare soften to make them feel safe. The fear you inspire isn't yours to fix. It's theirs to face. You were not sent here to pacify liars. You were not sent here to shrink. You are the wild card the system didn't plan for, the echo of a truth too strong to silence, the return of balance in a world drunk on illusion. So walk tall. Let them whisper, let them plot, Let them brace themselves, because you are not the threat, they are. You are the response, the reflection, the reckoning. You are the reason shadows check the corners, the reason cowards look over their shoulders. You are the proof that no matter how deep the lie, one true voice will always be heard. You are the chosen, and they are terrified. Number 5. They built walls, you turned them into thrones. They tried to bury you with resistance, forgetting you were the one who turns pressure into crowns. Feel it, the pushback, the friction, the invisible hands trying to hold you in place, trying to suffocate your movement before it becomes momentum. Every time you take a step forward, something rises to block you, an obstacle, a whisper, a shadow draped in someone else's fear. That pressure you feel, that's not coincidence, that's not bad luck, that is confirmation. You're not imagining the resistance, they're investing in stopping you. And no one does that for someone insignificant. They claw at your foundation like desperate animals trying to stop an earthquake with their fingernails. They can't, and they know it. But that doesn't stop them from trying. You threaten not just their comfort, you threaten their identity. You move like someone who doesn't need validation. You speak like someone who already knows. And that alone cracks the very spine of their illusion. Because you're not guessing, you're remembering, you're not hoping, you're walking in certainty, and nothing terrifies the orchestrators of fear more than someone who's no longer afraid. They flood your space with doubt, with sideways comments and passive silence. They manufacture hesitation like it's a factory product, designed to infect your decision-making, to slow your momentum, to make you second-guess the power they already know you hold. They'd rather confuse you than confront you because they know they can't win a fair fight. So they hide behind concern, behind advice, behind twisted logic that makes you feel like the villain for simply being firm in who you are. But here's the raw truth. Hesitation is a trap for those still begging for approval. And you gave that up when you realized your worth wasn't up for debate, when you stopped asking if you were allowed to rise. When you looked around and saw that the only thing holding you back was a belief you inherited from the people who benefited from your silence. Their resistance is not your burden, it is your badge, your coronation, your crown. You think kings and queens rise without enemies. You think lightwalkers arrive without pushback. No, the resistance you feel is the echo of their fear. It's the proof that you matter, that your very existence is an interruption to their control. They gather in the dark to discuss you. Why? Because they know you are a threat to everything they've built on falsehood. If you were nothing, if you were nobody, they'd ignore you. They wouldn't waste time trying to discredit you. They wouldn't plot to isolate you, undermine you, distract you. But instead, they obsess. They twist narratives. They rally behind your back like soldiers preparing for a war they already lost. Because you, chosen one, are not a person to them. You're a problem, a crack in the dam, a fault line threatening to split open every lie they've cemented into place. And it's not because you scream, it's because you exist. You could walk into a room silently and still cause panic. You could smile and they'd flinch because it's not what you do. It's who you are. You hold truth in your bones. You walk with a knowing that doesn't ask for permission. And that terrifies those whose power depends on others not waking up. So don't ever let their resistance make you shrink. Wear it, use it, let it sharpen you. Let it remind you of what's at stake. You are not here to be liked. You are here to be aligned. You are not here to blend in. You are here to stand out. And the more they try to cage you, the more they prove that you were never meant to live small. Some of you are still wondering why the attacks haven't stopped, Why every new level brings new opposition? Here's your answer. Each time you level up, you enter enemy territory. Each time you get closer to your truth, the noise gets louder. Because you're shaking the ground they thought was stable. You're proving that the system can be broken, that the script can be rewritten, and you don't need their pen. So stop wishing it was easier. Start realizing you're built for this. Royalty doesn't get to hide in the crowd. Kings don't move in silence. They move with presence. Queens don't ask for seats. They build their own tables. And chosen ones don't wait to be seen. They shine regardless. Their resistance is your recognition, their fear is your signal, and their obsession, that's your impact in motion. Let them press, let them panic, let them try everything they can. Because the more they fight, the more they expose themselves, the more they resist, the more obvious your power becomes. They don't get to define your worth. They don't get to tell your story. They don't get to decide how high you rise. You do. And when you finally step into that truth, when you wear their resistance like a crown instead of a weight, something shifts, not just in you, but in the world around you, because the chosen don't just survive opposition, they transform it into thrones. And yours is already waiting. Number 6. They built thrones from lies. Now watch them sink in their own illusion. Power built on lies doesn't collapse with fire. It crumbles under the quiet weight of truth. Let them fear. Let them scramble. Let them run in circles trying to protect the illusion they built, like a house of mirrors, fragile, distorted, and easily shattered by a single honest reflection, because it's already too late. You were the alarm clock the system never wanted to hear. You were the truth bomb planted in their carefully rehearsed performance, and now it's gone off. No screaming, no explosions, just quiet implosion. Truth doing what vengeance never could, eroding everything fake from the inside out. They wanted power, not earned power, not rooted power, borrowed power. Power stitched together with manipulation, fear, performance, and fake virtue. They wore other people's dignity like a costume. They didn't build thrones. They stole them. They didn't rise. They climbed over corpses of better people. And the whole time, they told themselves it was right, that the ends justified the means. But now, the weight of what they built is collapsing under its own false gravity. They were kings of empty kingdoms, rulers of cardboard empires. And you didn't need to set it on fire. All you had to do was exist in truth. Your clarity was the earthquake. Your light was the rot detector. You walked into their circus and made it look like a sideshow. And now the audience is leaving. You were never blind. You saw them. Long before they realized the cracks in their mask were visible, you were watching. You saw how their words never matched their energy. You saw the smiles that didn't reach their eyes. You noticed the sudden shift in temperature when truth entered the room. You knew something was off, and while others clapped, you stood still. That's why they hated you. Not because you were loud, but because you refused to pretend. And now they fear you. But their fear, that's not your burden, that's your confirmation. You didn't demand the crown. They placed it on your head the moment they started planning your silence. They handed you power every time they spoke your name in secret. Every time they lied to protect the illusion, they fueled the truth they feared most, that you never needed their system to stand tall. They kept asking the universe to silence you, praying that you'd just disappear. But the universe doesn't work for cowards. It doesn't protect illusion. It doesn't cater to those who use fear to climb. It aligns with truth, and truth, like water, always finds its way. Through cracks, around resistance, under doors. And now, it's flooding their foundations. Let them whisper, let them plot. Let them sit in rooms filled with smoke, trying to reverse a collapse that has already begun. Because nothing built on fraud ever lasts. It may look stable for a while, it may shine, it may echo with applause, but when the light changes, when the curtain lifts, when one honest person dares to stand in full alignment, the entire structure starts to tremble. You don't need to shout for it to fall. You don't need to fight them. The lies are devouring themselves. The performance is draining their spirit. They're aging under the weight of pretending. You don't have to touch them. The truth is already doing the job. Every fake gesture, every manipulated situation, every attempt to control the narrative is now unraveling thread by thread. They built their image with scaffolding made of silence and complicity. You were the first one to say no, and once that no echoed, others started hearing it. That's the revolution, not the war they imagined, but a quiet dismantling, a shift, a recognition. Now they stumble over their own stories. They contradict themselves, trying to keep the act alive. They post fake smiles with tired eyes. They offer apologies without repentance. They're trying to patch holes in a dam that's already cracking open. And you're not fighting them. You've moved beyond them. You've become the standard, the shift, the unmovable center. Some of you, right now, are still holding back, still asking, do I have the right to speak, to shine, to lead? Let me answer that for you. Yes, not because you are perfect, not because you have all the answers, but because you refused to be fake, because you chose truth over comfort. And that makes you more powerful than every false leader who ever used fear to maintain control. So let them panic. Let them try to reinvent themselves in the image of authenticity you represent. They can mimic the words, they can borrow the tone, but they can't manufacture presence, they can't fake alignment, and no amount of imitation can save them from the collapse of a house they built with stolen bricks. Truth doesn't need defense, it stands, and so do you. You are the undoing of everything that never should have been allowed to thrive. You are the reset, the realignment, the proof that the universe doesn't forget its own, that when someone is chosen, truly chosen, no lie can last long in their presence. Let them fall, let the false thrones crumble, let the shadows scatter in the light you didn't ask for, but now carry like a weapon, because you, chosen one, you were never here to destroy, you were here to reveal, and now they see. Number 7, you rose without a sword, and still they fell. You didn't lift a finger. Their collapse was the echo of your rise. You never needed a weapon. You never needed revenge. You never had to scream or swing or strike. The moment you stood tall in truth, the walls they built started shaking. They felt it, even before they admitted it. They looked at you and something in their souls stuttered. Because you weren't reacting, you weren't playing, you weren't feeding the fire they tried to light around your name. You were just rising, and that alone dismantled everything they tried to construct on top of your silence. They called you a threat, but you brought no chaos. It was their own chaos that unraveled them. Their schemes, once sharp and effective, now twist back onto themselves like blades with no handles. Their whispers now trip over their own contradictions. The lies they told so confidently now echo with hesitation. You can hear it in the tremble of their voices, in the way their eyes can't hold yours anymore. They used to walk into rooms with pride. Now they check shadows like hunted men. That's not your doing. That's consequence. You don't need to lift your hands when the truth already moved through the room like a slow fire. Truth is patient. It waits. It doesn't beg for attention. It simply exposes. You didn't ask for this war. You didn't sign up to be their undoing. But the moment they made you the target, they handed you the power, not to destroy them, but to outlast them. And that's the part they never saw coming. You didn't collapse under pressure. You hardened. You didn't cry for their approval. You clarified. And when the smoke cleared, there you stood, silent, solid, undeniable. They speak of order, of structure, of balance, but look closer. What follows them? Chaos, conflict, confusion. They left a trail of broken loyalties and drained people. They wear the language of leadership like a mask, but their actions scream insecurity. You watch them contradict themselves so many times. Their own stories started to eat each other. You didn't even have to speak. You just kept showing up in truth. And that's what they couldn't manage. You became their exposure. Because your rise was never built on their approval. It was built on alignment. And alignment terrifies people who manipulate. You see, manipulation needs confusion to survive. It thrives in shadows. But you brought clarity. And clarity starves manipulation. You didn't fight them, they fought the reflection. You just held the mirror up and watched them flinch. They told people you were unstable, reckless, a liar. But every time they spoke your name, more eyes turned toward you. More people began to see that something didn't add up, that someone who was supposedly so dangerous somehow kept rising, kept healing, kept glowing, without matching their hate, without speaking their language. Your silence said more than their accusations ever could. And still, some of you ask, should I have said something? Should I have done more? No. You did enough by standing, by surviving, by refusing to bend. Their collapse was never in your hands. It was in their arrogance. They believed you were just another obstacle to control. They didn't realize you were the consequence of their imbalance, the echo of everything they tried to suppress, coming back tenfold. Your rise was not violent, but it was loud, not in sound, but in energy. Your healing, your growth, your refusal to play small, those were thunderclaps. And while they tried to pretend the storm wasn't coming, you became the lightning bolt that cracked their sky wide open. You were supposed to be erased. You were supposed to be forgotten. That's what they told themselves, that if they mocked you long enough, ignored you hard enough, isolated you deep enough, you'd just disappear. But you didn't. You rose, and while you were rising, they were unraveling. That's the paradox they now have to live with, that their focus on your destruction only accelerated their own, that their obsession with stopping you kept your name in the air longer than you ever asked for, that while they were burying you in lies, the universe was planting you in purpose. So now, let them stumble, let them backtrack, let them try to rebuild an image that no longer holds weight. Their fall isn't your responsibility to manage or explain. The truth has taken over. The unraveling has begun. And you are free. You don't owe them forgiveness. You don't owe them softness. You don't even owe them acknowledgement. Your rise is not about them. It never was. But their fall, that's the result of waging war against someone who was never at war, of striking out at a force that wasn't playing by their rules, of underestimating the quiet, grounded power of a chosen one who no longer needed to fight because the universe was already moving mountains on their behalf. So let them collapse, let them drown in the weight of their own deception. You keep rising. Because that's what scares them most. You're still here. And so, as their world crumbles under the weight of its own lies, you stand, unshaken, undeniable, and rising higher than ever. Your existence is the proof that truth always outlives illusion, and real power never needs permission. They wrote your ending too soon, but now they're forced to watch the sequel, your ascension. If this message hit your soul, like and subscribe to help spread it to more chosen ones. Drop the number 77 in the comments if you're walking in your truth, and share this with someone who needs to be reminded. Their rise is already written. The fall, already happening.